The suspended Chief Justice of the Republic, Madam Torkonoo, has filed a suit at the Supreme Court challenging the committee set up by the President to investigate allegations of misconduct against him on the back of petitions seeking her removal. Now, she wants the entire work of the committee to cease because she has strong reservations about the composition of the committee and some members in this particular committee. Tonight, or this afternoon, on the Situation Room, we'll tell you what the Chief Justice or the suspended Chief Justice is seeking to do and what the court is expected to do in this particular issue. When we come back from the break, I'll tell you as usual who I'm doing the show with and the issues we are also discussing apart from the Chief Justice.
Is it the luxurious rooms? Or the serene green surroundings? Is it the tempting swimming pool? Or the classy conference room? Or the cute gift shop? Maybe it's our chef's array of cooking delights. Whichever way, it's all about Cactus Creek. A most respected hotel. 055 039 5007.
Connected to DSTV this April and May and get all the football finals you want.
You're welcome back. You're still watching the Situation Room, coming to you live from our studio here in Accra. Situation Room, as always, comes your way every Thursday from 3 p.m. to 4 p.m. And on Situation Room, we talk politics, pure politics, and we tell you developments within the country and anything that has to do with politics. And as I mentioned earlier, the suspended Chief Justice has filed a motion or an application at the Supreme Court seeking to put the committee set up by the President to investigate misconduct against her on the back of some petitions against her on hold because she has some strong reservations about the work of the committee and some individuals who are also on this particular committee. As always, my colleague Fred Jabano and I, who always do this show, will tell us what these reliefs the Chief Justice or the suspended Chief Justice is seeking and what other matters she's also seeking or asking the Supreme Court to do. Also, we talk about AMPP and its politics. You remember the flag bearer of the party in the 2024 election, Dr. Bawumia, began a thank you tour. I'm sure here in Ghana he's done. Now he's taking this same thank you tour to the UK, where he's made certain pronouncements. First of all, he has apologized for the party's abysmal performance in the last election and has also made some profound statements. Dr. Bawumia believes that in 2028, the optics may favor the MPP in that particular election because he believes that in the politics of Ghana, no first-time candidate has been able to win the presidency unless that particular candidate comes a second, a third, or maybe a fourth before he or she is able to win the presidency. Today, we'll discuss this particular observation by Dr. Bawumia, meaning that is he the obvious choice for the MPP as the party prepares for the 2028 election? We'll speak to a political analyst on this particular issue and look at the history of the MPP and its presidential candidates and what the repetition of such presidential candidates have done for the party as far as seeking power is concerned. This is the situation when we talk politics. Fred Jabano, my friend, colleague, and brother, who I do this show with, is here with us. Fredo, what's up?
Sammy, I'm well. How are you?
The Chief Justice seems not to let things go or let things lie.
Yeah.
And this particular application she filed comes on the back of what filed
yesterday.
On yesterday, which is Wednesday, on the back of two earlier ones which were filed by
one group,
one a civil society group and one an individual, which was also dismissed by the Supreme Court. One has to do these two separate ones before we come to the Chief
Justice's issue is quite interesting. You know, from the very beginning when this announcement was made, we've had a number of court hearings. So you had the MP, Honorable Vincent Esefwa, going to court challenging the process at the beginning. Following that, you had Vincent once again going in to challenge other issues which had to do with the removal of CJ. So Vincent alone had two cases before the court, which all had to deal with the removal of the Chief Justice. Those two cases were all dismissed by the Supreme Court. Following that, there was an application filed by one private citizen and another one filed by a civil society group, Center for Citizens, Constitutional and Election Systems. They also filed challenging the process, challenging the decision to suspend the Chief Justice. They also raised concerns with the power of the President to suspend without going through the process. What they claim is the lay-down process for suspension, referring to Article 297 of the Constitution. These two cases, the one by the private citizenship, then the one by the civil society organization was heard yesterday. The court dismissed that. That was a 4-1 decision. So you had 4 justices of the court dismissing it and one upholding the arguments of the applicants. Not long after, we heard of the CJ herself. So from the very beginning of this case, the CJ herself, suspended CJ, Justice Gertrude Torkonoo, had herself not personally gone to court to challenge the process. What we know she was personally involved in is the letter to the President asking for her to be given a hearing. Since that particular letter to the President, we have not heard any move of hers personally to stop the process. But yesterday, the suspended CJ filed a suit at the Supreme Court, represented by former Attorney General Godfred Dame, where they are now also seeking to stop the process. They've raised a number of issues. In that particular suit, there are 16 reliefs that they are seeking for. And today would break down those 16 reliefs. A lot of the times when people file suits and you hear of reliefs, we often hear of the very catchy ones. So you recall, since yesterday, there's been conversations of her opposition to two members of the committee. The chairman of the committee, Justice Poaman, and Justice Esiedu, who is also a Supreme Court. That was what made the news. But outside that, she has a number of reliefs, which she's asking the Supreme Court to look at and grant her those reliefs. And if the Supreme Court grants her those reliefs, eventually means that the work of the committee has come to an end because there's been some kind of unconstitutionality found by the Supreme Court. But if the Supreme Court dismisses these reliefs, it means that the committee would continue. Usually what happens in the court is that you can go to court with about 16 or more reliefs. The court can dismiss the entire 16 reliefs. The court can uphold some reliefs and also dismiss some reliefs. We are not sure of what the court will do. But what we are sure of is what the Chief Justice herself has presented to the court yesterday, and we'll take our viewers through these things that the Chief Justice is asking for. So
before you go on the screen, the issue of politics has come to play in this whole process. And then people may look at the optics behind. There are reports that some of the lawyers representing some of these petitioners are known faces of the NDC. And looking at a former Attorney General representing the Chief Justice in this whole matter, are people right when they say politics has become a part of this whole process?
So, I mean, you cannot take politics out of this process. Where we are now is purely law and politics.
Okay.
Purely law and politics because the process to remove is a legal process. The decision to remove is a political process, is a political decision. Why do I say this? When there's the law side where the Constitution states clearly, somebody files a petition.
Yeah.
It's presented to the president. The president will move that petition from his office to the Council of States. The Council of States will decide a prima facie case. If they find a prima facie case, it moves to the president and says, we have found a prima facie case. There's a committee set up to hear the case or the petition, and a decision is made. That is a legal process. Now, where does the politics come in? The politics comes in where now political actors will now get up to either defend or object to that decision. You understand? The person who is forwarding that petition to the Council of State in himself is a political person. He's a president, voted by the people of Ghana on a political party's ticket. The Council of State, though legal, is also a bit of politics because the president has the power to make appointments onto that council. So the process, even though we would say it's constitutional or legal, you cannot take politics out of it. And from the very beginning, you've seen how this thing has played out from the very beginning, where the opposition now is referring the government or the party in power now to things which were said whilst they were in opposition. Whilst the people in government now are also saying, look, we want to sanitize the process, we want to sanitize the judiciary. So it's both a legal action and a political action. The actors are politicians. The process is legal. The commentators, most are politicians. So we cannot
draw a clear distinction.
No, there's a distinction, but I mean, we cannot say one doesn't exist. They both exist, and they are both playing the way they have to be. You see, the legal process the process has been started by the president. Now there are court cases to challenge the process, so the legality is there. The politics is also there, like you said, where people now are saying, look at the petitioners. We are told that they are represented by a group of people. They are represented by persons who are believed to be sympathizers of the NDC or members of the NDC. You come to the other side. Who went to court to challenge the process first? It was a member of parliament. A member of parliament, where did he belong to? He belongs to the MPP side. After that, what happens? He's represented by an attorney general who had just left office. Some few weeks after, the Chief Justice herself has gone to court, represented by who else? An attorney general who had just left office. So yes, it's both legal, it's both politics, and they will still play. We cannot take out these two. Whether we like it or not, the politics will be played. But then what we expect is that the legalities and the law stands.
Take us through some of the reliefs, 16 of them, right?
Yes, 16. But what we have done is that we've put the 16, we've grouped them, and would explain to viewers what exactly the Chief Justice is seeking for. First, let's start with her core arguments. What is the Chief Justice asking for? Chief Justice Torkonoo says the removal process is unfair, unconstitutional, and politically motivated. So the core of her argument is that, one, the process from the very beginning has been unfair. The process as it stands now, based on her understanding, is unconstitutional, based on certain actions actors have been involved in. Then she's also saying that this particular move, like we just said, has political connotations all around it. So what is she looking for? She wants the court to stop the process, cancel her suspension, and disqualify the biased committee.
Members.
For her, she believes that the committee setup is biased. So this is the core of her argument. Now we'll go into the details of these arguments which has been summed up. So we break those details down. First, the Chief Justice is also going to, before we go that, she's relying on, if you look at the suit that she filed at the Supreme Court, she's relying on some provisions in the Constitution. So largely, she's relying on Article 7, 1 and 2. She's relying on Article 13 and 13, Article 19, 13 and 14. She's relying on 146, 23, 125, 3 and 4, 1271, Articles 218 and 295 of the Constitution. These are the provisions and the articles of the Constitution. When you read the suit filed, she's largely basing her arguments on. Now, what is she saying? One of the things the Chief Justice is asking the court to do is to give her the right to public hearing.
Okay.
When you read Article 1468 of the Constitution, it spells out the process for the removal. And in that particular article, and that particular provision 8, it says that the committee work shall be held in camera.
Okay.
That's what the Constitution says in Article 1468, 1478. The work of the committee, which is set to investigate or go through the petition by the petitioners, shall be held in camera. But the Chief Justice holds a different view. What is she saying? She's asking for a public hearing, not a secret one, for the committee sitting.
But if the Constitution says it should be in camera, why would a Chief Justice want to go against what the Constitution says?
She says that such a right can only be denied for serious reasons like public safety and morality. And for her...
So that's her interpretation of that particular...
Yes, she believes that this particular article, and why she's asking for that, she believes that this article is just to protect the morality and other things that which may go and affect the petitioner. She also believes that the current investigation is being unfairly done. So being closed doors, the general public will not hear and understand and follow the process.
Okay.
Don't forget that this is a Chief Justice who allowed cameras
into the court,
into the court in some essential cases, of very important national cases or constitutional cases. And she's asking for same to be done for her by the committee, despite what has been indicated, has been written in the Constitution. Yeah. She believes that what the Constitution states is to protect her and to protect her rights. And she wants to waive that right.
She doesn't want to be protected.
She doesn't want to protect it. She wants to waive that right for a public hearing. So this particular concern or this particular argument or request by the Chief Justice is one which we are all looking forward to see what the court will say.
Yeah.
Because this is very explicit in the Constitution. The committee's hearing is supposed to be in camera. Mm-hmm. The interpretation the Supreme Court justices would wait to hear. But in general, she's saying that she wants a public hearing because she doesn't think she's been unfair. She's been fairly treated. She thinks that that particular article is to protect the petition, the Chief Justice or whoever the petition has been brought against, and she wants to waive that protection and allow everybody to follow through the process. What else is she asking for? The right to waive privacy. So just like the other one, this goes to back it. So in having to have the right to public hearing, what you are saying is that I don't want to be heard in private any longer. There may be things said about me which under normal circumstances people should believe, or the Constitution or the framers of the Constitution believe should be private. So people believe that the framers of the Constitution were looking at a point where when petitions are brought, after the process, and the Chief Justice is found not to be guilty, some of these things will not be in the public domain to affect her reputation and her work. That is why they also stopped the petition from being put into the public
domain, yeah.
That's the understanding by people who say, people who believe that this is what is the thinking of the framers of the Constitution. Now, the Chief Justice says, I don't like it. And I want the court to know that I have the power, or have the constitutional right to waive this privacy. So she wants the court to declare that she has that constitutional right to waive that privacy and be heard in public. She goes on to ask for other things. She's arguing that the prima facie decision or case found by the Council of State is flawed. So for people who do not really understand what prima facie is, and I'm sure this is a word from the very beginning,
dominated has major discussions.
Yes, it simply means that there's enough reason for an investigation or a trial to take place. And she is saying that that decision is flawed. Why does she say that? She's saying that the Council of State's decision conveyed to her by the President, dated, the letter to her dated, sent by the President, dated the 22nd of April 2025, was flawed and violated her right to fair trial. She said she was not given reasons for the decision or the arrival of a prima facie case, which she believes she should have been given. There was nothing said. So all what was said was given to her was that the Council of State has found a prima facie case against you, therefore you need to answer. But how they arrived at that prima facie case, the Chief Justice is saying that she wasn't given those reasons. She also says that she makes the argument that using Article 296, which mentions the use of discretionary powers by quasi-judicial bodies. So for the President to take that action and to write by her, she also is agreeing with a group of people who believe that the President needed to issue a writ or an executive instrument to be able to make this thing public or take the decision. When you look at all these arguments, she tells the court that she wants it declared unconstitutional and invalid. So she wants the prima facie case, which has been determined by the Council of State, declared as null and void. What is she asking again? She's saying that her suspension was wrong.
Fred, I'm enjoying this particular presentation, but then there's something we need to, I understand Godfrey Adame, who is lawyer to Chief Justice on this particular case, a former Attorney General, is currently speaking to our own court correspondent, Hansen Ajimai, on this particular suit and the way forward. So we'll go and pick Hansen whilst he's interviewing Godfrey Adame, former Attorney General and Minister of Justice, who is also lawyer for suspended Chief Justice, Madam Gertrude Torkonoo.
Intervention. For the other three members, you objected to their qualification to be on that committee as well.
Oh yes, because we have cleared because they have been in the oath of office before we properly vested with power to adjudicate. It's something for the court to tell.
So they can't do with whether they are lawyers, they are not lawyers, they are not members of parliament, members of parliament. They meet that bill, but they did not take the oath of office to be able to be part of it.
So our query is to the failure to take the oath of office. So that letter will interest you. His matter came up in the Supreme Court. Chief Justice actually voted in favor of that indictment. So really, as I always say, all these attempts by the NDC to move the Chief Justice along are unjustified. Control the judiciary.
Take control of that.
That's essential rhetoric. That was by President Mahama. thing here is when he comes forward, they throw themselves up, we are appointing them to the bench and because by MPP and all that. It's abhorred and prohibited by the Constitution. It's a very serious matter. And he's seeking to give effect to that thing which is prohibited by the Constitution. And I'm saying that you have done so by cooking up all these allegations against the Chief Justice.
So you believe this is overriding consideration?
100%. So that's it. And throughout the proceedings, the NDC people have made statements like Mr. Fagbandi and other people, have said that, this year.
Some have questioned why you are so vested in this case, and they think that as a former Attorney General, as a member of the New Patriotic Party, at best you should distance yourself from this case, and the Chief Justice ought not to have even engaged you.
Chief Justice has the right to answer. She does so take into account the specific matter that she wants to take to the Supreme Court, assessment of expertise of the lawyers and whatever. It's a basic right. I think the record too ought to reflect the fact that if there's any attorney general who has spoken against interferences with the independence of the judiciary, it is me. Right from day one, when I was appointed as Attorney General in 2021, my wedding bar conference, I gave a speech for Gatanga, that's deploring the unjustified attacks on the judiciary. And continue my bar conference at home. It took a shorter for suggesting that the judiciary ought to be cleaned up and that it was going to change the judiciary and NDC loyalty and all that. And that's so. If you critically take a look at it, the source of all the problems these people have with me is the judiciary. The source of the problems that NDC lawyers can have with me is actually that speech by me at the bar conference when I went all out in all certain terms, kind of done by President Obama. So what I'm doing now very much is two for but now before I came to public service, I used to stand up for the judiciary, and you would never find me on any occasion attacking a judge, never at all. Last 2 weeks in Supreme Court, that's why you made a point that that was I was objecting to the judge. That's the acting Chief Justice because of the special circumstances of the matter. I have one judge and one lawyer who on every occasion has always recognized and sought to uphold the dignity and thought at all times. And so whenever there's any attempt to encroach, it's recorded off. I would definitely speak against it. And I'm saying that when they do so, it has a far on a democracy that we practice. There are democratic credentials. Go down if the Chief Justice is removed.
When you suspect the attempt to remove the justice is politically motivated too. Yeah, those are saying that.
Former Attorney General and Minister of Justice Godfrey Abord, that interaction there with my colleague Hansen Ajimai on the latest suit by the suspended Chief Justice. We know as a former Attorney General, he's also the lawyer for the former or the suspended Chief Justice in this whole application filed at the Supreme Court, which was filed yesterday, Wednesday, seeking to have some few reliefs. Some reliefs Fred Jabano is taking us to. You can get a full interview on our social media handles, on YouTube, X, Facebook. You can find a full interview there. So Fred, the former Attorney General, Minister of Justice, defending his decision to represent the Chief Justice in this whole matter. It has come up for a number of discussions that why would a former Attorney General want to defend a suspended Chief Justice, and it brings about the politics, as you mentioned earlier.
It brings the politics, and his argument is that he believes that it's time for good thinking people in the society to get up or arise and speak on the issue. And for him, he believes that he's one of those good thinking people within society, and he has to get up, and he's risen to defend what he believes is an illegality. But you see, it doesn't take away from the politics, like we mentioned earlier.
As you mentioned.
The politics will be there, the law will be there, the politics and the law would be mixed. But at the end of the day, the law should stand.
Yeah.
And we hope that the law will stand. Like the Chief Justice himself said,
the law is the
law. So, and who does the law belong? Whose bosom does the law lie? The bosom of the justices of the Supreme Court. So we are confident that the Supreme Court would deliver a ruling or a decision which will clarify the situation and ensure that the law is upheld.
Fred, we'll go for a quick break. When we come back, you continue the presentation on the reliefs the suspended Chief Justice is seeking. You're still watching The Situation Room, coming to you live from our studio here in Accra. We'll go for a quick break. When we come back, Fred Jabana will continue with the reliefs the Chief Justice or the suspended Chief Justice is seeking as far as the application at the Supreme Court is concerned. I also have a discussion on the MPP and Dr. Muhammad Bawumia. He's making some few comments as far as the 2028 election is concerned.
Hi, friend. Where are we going today?
Just use your imagination.
Go, go, go!
My family is the only thing that matters to me right now.
This is the stuff that Mimi dreamed about.
These guys are the best.
GoTV's ready to take you from your hometown to roaring stadiums and even on international adventures. So let's go together, from home or on the go with GoTV Stream.
Sounds like a great idea.
Woohoo! GoTV. Love it.
It's time for the main event. This is incredible. He has written it, and the dream lives on. I cannot believe it.
Stay connected to DSTV this April and May and get all the football finals you want.
You're welcome back. You're still watching The Situation Room, coming to you live from our studio here in Accra. On Situation Room, we talk politics and everything that has to do with politics. Just before we went on that break, Fred Jabana was taking us through the reliefs the suspended Chief Justice, is seeking at the Supreme Court. You remember on Wednesday, she filed an application at the Supreme Court, seeking some reliefs as far as the committee set up by the president to investigate allegations of misconduct against her. The committee has already started work, and so she wants to put the whole committee work on hold because she has some strong reservations about the committee and some members of the committee. Fred, so you were telling us that she feels that the committee or the whole process is unfair,
yes,
is illegal and unconstitutional.
Yes. So, Sami, we ended at saying that she was challenging the prima facie case found against her by the Council of State. Based on that, her premise, she's also saying that her suspension by President Mahama is wrong. She argues that her suspension was based on the flawed prima facie case decision. And you cannot base take a decision on a flawed decision. So once the prima facie case against her is flawed, the suspension, which was based on that particular decision, is also flawed. She also refers to Article 296 of the Constitution, where again she believes that because this action is like taking a judicial decision, you need an executive instrument. The president is supposed to issue an executive instrument, which has not been done. Mm-hmm. Based on all that, she says that the Supreme Court, should order her reinstatement and declare the decision to suspend her as null and void and unconstitutional. What again is she looking for? She's saying that the decision or the process or the action of the president is interfering with the independence of the judiciary.
That argument has come up in several conversations.
Yes.
And they believe that, first of all, even the appointment of judges and even the Chief Justice by the President is one way or the other an interference in the work of the judiciary. And that argument has come up several times. And people believe that as the Constitution Review Committee is hearing, comments on how to make the Constitution proper, this issue will come up for maybe observation or a comment or two on how we can rectify it in the Constitution.
So, for argument on this particular action or this particular argument that it's a violation of the independence of the judiciary, she cites Article 125 of the Constitution, which talks about the power of the judicial power. Judicial power, and then Article 127, which talks about the independence of the judiciary. She believes that this unjust attempt to remove her is going to affect the independence of the judiciary. She says that it threatens and it violates the Constitution, because the Constitution states clearly the independence and the protection of the independence of the judiciary. And by this action, which is seeking her removal through this current process, which is unconstitutional, you are touching the independence of the judiciary. Hence, the Supreme Court should declare the action as null and void. What else is she asking for? Or is she arguing? She says there was no proper notice. No proper notice. She wasn't informed of the reasons behind the decision before the committee was set up. So this is connected to the prima facie case, where she's saying that that prima facie case was unjust and was not grounded in any proper law, because she says that once that decision was made, she needed to be informed that these are the reasons. And based on these reasons, we are going to suspend you. She says that it violates her right to fair process. So because I was not well informed, or my attention was not drawn to these things or these actions by the Council of State, I was not given a fair process. And you see, the Chief Justice already before this particular suit, at the very beginning, when the petition was filed, raised a concern with the fairness of the process, where she believed that she needed to be given copies
of the petition.
Which she wasn't, but later given by the president. So based on this, she's telling the court that, look, I was not properly notified. There was no proper notice given to me about the process. So I think I am being fairly untreated. Or fairly treated. I'm fairly treated. She's been unfairly treated. Hence, the court needs to dismiss the actions and the work of the committee. Now, to the issue a lot of people are interested in. The Chief Justice is seeking the removal of certain people from the committee. First is the chairman of the committee, Justice Gabriel Scott Poaman. What's the Chief Justice saying? She says that he should not be on the committee or act as chairman. He had previously ruled in favor of one of the petitioners, Daniel Ofori, in a number of cases. So the Chief Justice is saying that this is one of these petitioners who filed a petition against me has appeared before Justice Poaman a number of times. And he's given favorable rulings to him. So and based on that, she feels like there's a bit of bias. So she wants Justice Poaman first, remove that chairman, and removed completely from the committee. Now, who else are we looking at? Justice Samuel Kwame Edibu Esiedu, the second Supreme Court Justice on this particular committee. The Chief Justice is saying that, Justice Edibu Esiedu, you two, I don't want you on the committee. Why don't I want you on the committee? She says he already sat on a panel which had a case related to her removal. And which case is that? This is the case which was filed by the Member of Parliament, Vincent Essefua's
case. Okay.
So you recall that on one of the days, the case had to be adjourned because there was a particular Supreme Court judge
who was not
available. Yeah. That Supreme Court judge is Justice Samuel Kwame Edibu Esiedu. And the Chief Justice is saying that based on the fact that he had already begun or had heard a particular case involving her removal, she feels a bit of bias and he should not be included in the committee. And you know, what did that Supreme Court panel end up? They dismissed the case of Vincent Esefua. They dismissed that case. But in dismissing the case, the question people asked was Justice Esiedu part of that panel? No, he wasn't, because he was replaced by the acting Chief Justice. But her ladyship, Justice Torkonoo, believes that, look, once you've been involved in a panel hearing this matter, I don't think that it is fair for you to be in a committee which is going to determine my stay. Now, to the other members of the committee. So she's just not looking for the two Supreme Court justices.
All the members of the committee.
Now she's come to the other three who are not justices of the court, who are not lawyers, who are not legal practitioners. You have Mr. Domolevu, you have Major Dalugu and Professor Jisa. She questions the qualifications of the following committee members. I've mentioned them. Now, she believes that they do not meet the constitutional standards and wants them to be removed. And what is the constitutional standard she's making reference to? The reference to sections of the Oath Acts of 1972, section 1, 2, and 4. So the Oath Act, she believes that these three people, when you check the schedule, the first schedule of the Constitution, and you look at these sections of the Oath Act, these people are just not qualified to be on the committee. So then she wants these people also declared as unfit to be on the committee, meaning that the entire committee
should be dissolved.
And the members of the committee are unfit
to be on the committee,
to hear the petition brought against her. Finally, so as we said, she wants the entire committee out. She argues that the whole process is flawed and invalid from the very beginning. So the Chief Justice has now personally come to defend herself, filed a suit at the Supreme Court, and these are the summary of the 16 reliefs she's seeking from the court. And these reliefs, at the end of the day, if granted, only means that the committee does not stand, the committee is unconstitutional, members of the committee are unfit, and therefore they cannot sit and hear.
So doesn't the president must constitute another committee?
That we cannot tell.
It will be at the discretion of the president.
The Supreme Court will now give orders
on
as to what's supposed to be done.
Interesting. And this supposed to be, ruled by her is it her colleagues or former colleagues? How do you describe it?
She's still a justice of the Supreme Court who has been suspended.
Okay.
So she's still
be ruled by her own colleagues.
Her own colleagues.
And this will determine whether indeed the law will work or relationship will work in this instance.
You see, Sami,
we can't rule relationship out of this. It's between the law and relationship. The law backed by relationship, relationship backed by the law.
We should give the justices. We should give the justices of the Supreme Court some credit.
Yes, absolutely. I agree. Absolutely.
They are learned people. They are senior people in the court. They did not just get to the Supreme Court based on nothing. They were put there based on their work. There may be relationships. You see, there have been times when justices during the Anas case were sent to the Supreme Court, were sent to other courts to face their own colleagues. But what happened? The judges depended on the law. They stood by the law. So for me, I don't think that the Supreme Court justices are going to be base their decision on relationship. I think that they will base their decision on the law,
and the
which
law
is the law.
Fred Jabano, and this is the situation. We'll be coming to you live from our studio here in Accra. We'll go for a quick break. When we come back, we'll do MPP politics. Dr. Bawumia has been speaking. He's taking his thank you tour to the UK. Has first of all apologized for the party's abysmal performance in the last election, and has also made some, interesting comments that the MPP as a political party repeats candidates, and the optics may favor the MPP in the 2028 election. We'll discuss that when we come back from the break. You're welcome back. You're still watching the Situation Room, coming to you live from our studio here in Accra. Now we shift from the Chief Justice, we do some MPP politics. Dr. Bawumia, somewhere in April, started a thank you tour across the country. And he's taking this thank you tour to the UK. You remember he was in Brussels for an event and then moved to the UK for an engagement with MPP members or MPP supporters in that part of the world. And he made some pronouncements. First of all, he apologized for the party's poor performance in the 2024 election, and also says that in Ghana politics, it's always difficult for a first-time candidate to win the presidency. And so you must come the second, third, or fourth, or if you are still alive, maybe the fifth. And so in 2028, the optics may favor the MPP because the NDC as a political party may also present a new candidate. And if history is anything to go by, he believes that a first-time candidate has not been able to win a major election. And so for the MPP, it will favor the party. Well, he believes that the party may elect him as the party's next flag bearer in the 2028 election. So let's hear what Dr. Bawumia said. And when we come back, we'll speak to Professor Samuel Edu-Jemfi from the Political Science and History Department of the Kwame Nkrumah University of Science and Technology.
We didn't get everything right. MPP did a lot of work, there's no doubt about it, but we did not get everything right. We got quite a few things wrong. And I think that on my own behalf, on behalf of the party and the government, I apologize to all of you for us not getting the things right that we should have gotten. We didn't get everything right. I believe that if by the grace of God we have another opportunity, I believe that we will get many things right because we've learned the lessons of where we are going. I believe that 2028 MPP is going to come back into government. I believe so. I believe so. There are a few reasons why I'm so convinced about this. Firstly, if you look at our political history suggests that it is usually very difficult for a first-time presidential candidate to win an election in Ghana. I don't know why that is, but Ghanaians want you to come more than one. So there is a sense that in 2028, NDC is going to bring a candidate for the first time. I believe we will have an advantage, all things being equal, over that new candidate coming in 2028. I believe we will have a very big advantage. The second set of reasons that I believe we are going to win is because NDC is actually in government. Why do I say so? In opposition, they made so many promises and told a lot of stories.
That's Dr. Bawumia. He's the flag bearer of the MPP, or he was the flag bearer of the MPP in the 2024 election and a former vice president of the Republic. Fred and I have been having an argument whether his assertion that it's always difficult for a first-timer to win an election in Ghana is a to go back. We'll put the argument on hold. Let's speak to Professor Samuel Edu-Gyamfi of the History and Political Science Department of the Kwame Nkrumah University of Science and Technology. Prof, good afternoon. Thank you very much for your time. This assertion by Dr. Bawumia, if history is anything to guide us, is that really the case?
At least since 1992, we saw Rawlings, President Rawlings, translating or moving from a military leader to serve as the first president in that respect within the Fourth Republic, served 8 years. We saw that Albert Edu-Boahen had played a lot of role historically, but Albert Edu-Boahen was changed. You saw that Kufuor came in and Kufuor was able to win power. The earlier period, especially in the 90s, it was a question about Rawlings himself being a juggernaut, powerful man who had militarily held on to power and was also translating us into a new democratic era. I do not know whether in this stead we could say that somebody like Albert Edu-Boahen could easily win political power, or even President Kufuor could easily win political power. But at least we saw that the NDC served its 8 years. And so whether you were an old face or a new face for that matter, Ghanaians began to show us also with the turn of President Kufuor serving 8 years, right? And we also saw Mills Mahama 4 years here, 4 years there for another 8 years. Then power oscillated again into the hands of the NPP, Akufo-Addo, Bawumia for 8 years. Now, there is the likelihood that you could be an old candidate or an old face, so to speak. But if the party which is in power has not served its 8-year tenure, you may not have the opportunity to win elections. Technically so, because of the 8 years alternation of power between the NDC, the MPP, and vice versa. You also need to understand the fact that around this time, as we speak, concerning the need to look at our political history to ascertain who leads, we also have to appreciate the fact that historically, what is Ghanaians, or what are Ghanaians looking for? What are Ghanaians looking for? What is the focus of Ghanaians? Historically, Ghanaians have voted based on charisma, again, possibly based on the assumption of the former vice president, based on longevity of contest the individual has come over and over again, so maybe let's give him the chance. But have we also tried to ascertain or construe this discussion around the politics of issues? I've said, especially concerning the 2012 elections, when I wrote my paper with my colleague, The Politics of Issues of Sides, a treatise of what caused the eventual outcome of the 2012 elections, we understood that there were, if you like, some shady reasons looking out for what really determines outcome of elections in Ghana, whether Ghanaians were really interested in the concrete issues like the economy, employment rate, unemployment, questions about inflation, macro and microeconomic issues, and all related issues, including even the evolving democratic culture and issues of human rights, issues of rule of law, and all that, whether Ghanaians were interested in some of these issues, among other things. Our conclusion around that time, that research was published around 2013 or so, was the fact that we anticipate that we would have a country that is interested in issues. I remember the days of the 90s up to the early 2000s, were the period where manifestos, for example, served the basis of galvanizing, right, support, and also whipping up political sentiments and all that. Today, as we speak, have Ghanaians been able to grow over time to show interest in issue voting? Exactly the point. Ghanaians have evolved over time. the teeming masses of this country are interested in political leaders and actors who deliver home the public good. It is not just showing of faces or how long you've tried knocking on the doors of Ghanaians to give you political power. If that were to be the case, even within the current rebel scheme of things, it means that we as a people would remain whimsical and, if you like, straw-minded in many ways, because we've not understood the need to work within a certain democratic realm. The social contract Ghanaians give to politicians, they anticipate that such politicians will be able to deliver the public good. The last elections we saw, which was held in Ghana, right? It was a massive vote for the NDC and a massive vote against the MPP. It was a protest against the governance that the MPP delivered within the 8-year period, superintended by President Akufo-Addo and his Vice President, Dr. Mahmoud Bawumia. If he understands that some of these pointers I'm alluding to can underscore the discussion, then it is better he even begins to, have a different posture within the scheme of things. History is important, but would history absorb, for example, the performance of his government? And would Ghanaians overlook a viable candidate with impeccable track record in the NDC, even if we were to be a first timer, so to speak, and vote for the MPP for the sake of it? These are critical questions I think we need to reflect on. So fundamentally, there is also a challenge about the whole trajectory and the course of the MPP. The whole internal democratic credentials of the MPP has eroded over time. And such erosion of the democratic culture of the MPP itself also allows for, if you like, conflictual situations which may persist. I've said that since somewhere around 2014, 2015, going on up to 2016, I referred to the former president as a democratic dictator who was not conciliatory and who presided over the 8 year of the MPP in power. The state of the MPP today is a party that is divided, and the degree of division is almost, gaining some accentuation. And that in itself does not speak well of the MPP. And the leader of the MPP today cannot just wish that a new person will emerge from the NDC and therefore they can win political power.
Very well. But
it's a serious call, and there's a need to reflect on.
Very well, Prof. Thank you very much for your time. But many people have also said that the party will mean to bring in maybe unity before the election, bring everybody on board before the election. So there may be a united front going into election 2028 in 30 seconds.
If I may, it's going to be a difficult internal race. The Electoral College would have a lot of tasks, a Herculean one on their shoulders. I do not think that the MPP may come out united if Dr. Mahmoud Bawumia leads the party. It seems to me that those even at the centrist position are not too comfortable whether Dr. Mahmoud Bawumia can deliver home victory for the MPP.
We'll wait to see. Prof, thank you very much. Professor Samuel Edu Jemfi is with the Political Science and History Department of the Kwame Nkrumah University of Science and Technology, having a discussion with us on some comments Dr. Mahmoud Bawumia has made in the UK whilst on a thank you tour in the UK. Fred, we bring the discussion here, but then Dr. Bawumia believes history is a guide. The MPP as a political party has consistently repeated candidates. And in the history of Ghana politics, a first-time candidate has never won. But he believes
in the history of Ghana's politics, a first-time candidate has won before, in the Fourth Republic, John Mahama in 2012.
He was then running mates too.
Yes, but he was a first-time presidential candidate.
On the ballot?
Yes.
So it's not new, right?
Yeah, so I mean, maybe in the history, yes, generally a first time, but there's a first timer who has won before.
Great, thank you very much. My name is Sami Wiafi, he's Fred Jaban, and we brought to you another exciting edition of the Situation Room that came to you live from our studio here in Accra. So we'll come your way again next week. May the good Lord be with us all.